Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We got a quick little video tonight, just a quick little project we're going to do here on the 85. So, as I told you in the intro video, this truck's been LS swapped. It has a 4L60E in it. And so I recently added an external transmission cooler to it. I originally had it plumbed into the radiator, but that was just kind of sketchy to me. I didn't really like that because, if you have some kind of internal failure in that radiator, and starts mixing antifreeze and the transmission fluid, you're not going to find out until it's too late. So my thoughts were get that transmission fluid out of the radiator in its own cooler. That way, if I have a leak or something, it's not going to be mixing with antifreeze. So the other part of that is I wanted to know what my temperatures were. So I recently bought the Glow Shift stubby um, the sensor that goes in the transmission. I did some research. I got the stubby one because the normal one sticks into the passageway further, and it like restricts the flow of the fluid going through there. So basically, from my understanding, the stubby one's better. So that's what I got. It's an electronic sensor, so it's not a mechanical one. So I had to find an electronic gauge, and I picked up this one. It is an Amazon special. It's digital. It was like 18 bucks. So tonight we're going to work on sticking it in. Got a pretty neat place where I'm going to put it. I robbed this idea from a local guy here that's got some pretty sweet bag um, work body C10s. Um, he's got some pretty sick trucks. He puts his gauge in the ashtray door. It's pretty cool. I'll show you that in just a second. So let's flip the camera around. We'll show you what we're going to do. All right. So like I said, we're going to stick it right there where the ashtray should be. Obviously, I don't have the ashtray in there. I have one, but I'm not going to use it. So we're going to stick this in there. And originally, I was going to use make a plate to go across it and use the lock ring and everything, but that hole there is just not big enough. But it's got a good bit of tension on it that I'm going to try just kind of sticking it in there and letting it stay. It doesn't have near the finished look that I want, so I will probably end up going back and changing it. Maybe the more centered up look would be better. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments, or if you have another idea of how to get it in there. That opening is just wide enough for the gauge itself to go in. So there's really no room for the lock ring to be on the back of it. There's not really any room for to make a plate there without having to cut that ashtray door, which I don't really want to do. So let's get that sensor out and show that to you. See what that's all about. All right, so here is the sensor. Like I said, it's from Glow Shift. Let's see if we can get that in the light there where you can see it. Let's just go ahead and open it up here. That's the part number there, GSTS11. The invoice says compatible with 4L60E automatic transmissions with 8 to 27 MPT threads. And this, again, is the stubby version of it. So there it is. It's shorter than, I guess, what is a regular version. The gauge came with the sensor. So let's compare sizes and see how much shorter the stubby one is. All right, so there you can see the stubby sensor. It's a good 1/4 inch, maybe a little better, shorter. So it doesn't stick as far up in that passageway where the oil flows. So what they're saying is basically is this one, the longer one, kind of restricts that oil flow. Whether it really does or not, I don't know. And whether it really is going to affect the performance of the transmission or not, I don't know. But I just like the idea of this one better, just allowing more fluid to flow by. All right, so I'm not so sure how well you can see it up there, but that little brass plug up there, that's where the That's where the sensor will go. Let's see if we can get a little better view of it. Right there. So it's on the driver's side of the transmission, basically right above where the shift linkage connects. That's where that plug is going to come out, and the sensor will go in. The new sensor uses a 14 millimeter wrench. So let's see if there's any chance that that is the same. Much smaller. Let's try something. All right, we're back. So it turns out it's an 11. The plug that takes it out, that comes out, is an 11. We'll put a socket on it. Let's see if we can make a mess. How much transmission fluid we get. All right. Here's the plug that comes out of it. Let's see if we can focus it on that. There it is. Here's the plug. The plug looks pretty similar to the sensor that comes with the gauge as far as how far it sticks in. So who knows, maybe it doesn't make a difference at all. All right, you can see I got the new one started in there. It was kind of a pistol to get started just because there ain't much room to work in here. I did a lot of work on the bottom side of this truck before I ever ran my exhaust. Put a new fuel tank in it to set it up for the EFI. I used a 87 C10 fuel tank and hanger. And man, there was just so much room to work into this thing before there was no exhaust under. But now it got a little bit crowded. That's okay because it sounds good. I definitely was not going to try to run this thing with just straight open headers. Alright, that's good and snug. Don't want to over tighten that because who knows what might happen. So let's start doing some wiring. Alright, I'm not sure how good you can see it, but that's our sensor sticking out right down there with the black and white wire. Should be pretty easy to get to. I think that I'm going to run my wiring through that hole right there in the firewall, which is where I have my windshield wiper motor wires ran. All this wiring harness was kind of custom redone by me, so it's not really all in the exact factory place. But I'm gonna come through that hole in the firewall. I do have some rubber grommet on the way. I'm gonna cut and split and put in that hole so that it's not just riding on bare metal. Let's see what we can do there. So we got the green wire. It's coming through right here. This is the hole that I used for my windshield wiper wiring to come through. I had to put a whole chassis harness in this truck. So in addition to the LS standalone harness, I had to do a chassis harness in it. So a lot of that stuff is custom rigged up by me. So we're going to feed this green wire down. We're going to connect it to the white wire on our sender, on our temperature sender. We're going to connect the black wire to a good ground right there on the inside of the frame rail. I chose that green wire because the green wire is what it's going to connect to in that pigtail for the actual gauge. All right, so we finished up all of our wiring under the dash, on the side of the transmission, And what we're left with is this small pigtail that sticks out and simply just plugs into the back of the gauge, just like that. So we're going to pop it in there. Make sure I got it turned the right way. Let it sit right in there. And let's turn the switch on and see what happens. Alright. Looks like we at least got some of our wiring right. 104 is the base reading. I take it that's the kind of the low reading for any oil temperature gauge. I noticed going to work this morning, when I cranked my Dodge up, the low reading on it started out at 104 and didn't start climbing until after it got over that temperature, obviously. All right, we'll have to wait for another night or another day to take it for a drive and make sure it actually is reading the temperature like it's supposed to. Actually, it comes up the temperature, because it is pouring down rain outside tonight, and I just don't feel like going out for a drive in the rain tonight just to test this gauge. So hopefully I'll get home from work early enough tomorrow, and the weather will be nice, and I can take it for a ride tomorrow. We'll see. I'll get it on video when I do. All right, so I've slept on it and I've thought about it, and I cannot leave it like that. It's driving me crazy. It's just unfinished, and it won't take much work to make us a face plate and make that look right. I will have to cut the top of that ashtray assembly, but you know, it is what it is. I've got another one laying in a parts box over in the shop just in case I mess it up too bad or decide to change it later on. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that. I've already measured this door or this area here. I'm going to make the plate cover all the way across, and I'm going to cut out a hole for the cigarette lighter plug, and then there'll obviously be a big hole here for this, and I'm going to rivet it to that. That's how I'm going to attach it. I'll do one rivet in this corner and then one above and below the cigarette lighter plug. So got my dimensions on that. Let's get our handy dandy little sheet of metal out that we've cut so many projects out of, and do some cutting. All right, so this is our little sheet of metal we're going to use. It's probably overkill. It's like, I think, 18 gauge. It started out as just like a 8 by 16 or something, just piece of flat steel that I got from Lowe's. I think I needed a little scrap, needed a little piece for something, and picked that up. But I've actually ended up cutting a lot of things out of it. So let's lay out our measurements here and get to cutting. I don't have many metalworking tools in my shop yet, something I'm hoping to get into a little bit more, so I won't be cutting this with a jigsaw. So my cuts won't be perfectly straight, but they'll be straight enough for what we're doing. So it's 4 3/16 wide, so they're up there. And it is 2 3/8 tall. So put it right there. Grab us a square mark off. And I'll just clamp that down to my workbench and do a little cutting. All right, so we got our piece cut out, and full disclosure, I measured wrong and cut it wrong the first time, so I had to recut it and make the piece a little bit bigger, but I didn't want to bore you guys with all that. So here we are with our new piece. We've done got our first hole area marked out for the cigarette lighter plug. We're going to base everything off of that one because that's the one hole that's already there. It's already in place, and it's not really movable. The other big hole, we can do it wherever it needs to be after we get it cut. Hopefully you guys can hear me because it's pouring down rain outside, and I'm in a metal shop, so we'll find out in just a little while. Apparently tonight is not my night to have charged batteries. Funny thing is that D-Wall battery has been on the charger since yesterday. It just does not hold a charge. It was a Prime Day special back in the summer, and I figured out where they can get you. The battery is smaller than what comes in if you go to Lowe's or somewhere and buy it. It's like half the size capacity-wise. That's where they get you. That's why it's so cheap. Keep that in mind. All right. Cordless power tools are great, but there's no replacement for a drop cord. Stand by. If we lose power to this old girl, we're going to call it a night. Try again tomorrow. All right, let's hop back in here and see just how it fits. That's not bad. Could probably take and kind of grind just a little, trim a little off the bottom edge there to make it center up in that hole just a little bit more. But overall, that's not terrible. That didn't take much. Just a little, like I said, just a little bit off the bottom. And we got it centered up in there good enough for me. Now let's work on our hole for our gauge. All right, we got our piece cutout. And this one fought me a little bit more because I didn't have the exact right size hole saw. It was just a touch too small, so we had to go back with this little rasp like thing here a bit. This is super aggressive, so I just was very gentle with it because it's real thin here at the top and the bottom, and I didn't want to just grab and bend it all up and yank it. But it turned out pretty good. Fits in there nice and snug. Actually goes like that. So it'll lay right in there just like that. So the question now is how much of that door up there we're going to cut out, because I centered this hole up and down with the height of the piece, and I centered it left to right between this edge and the edge of the cigarette lighter hole, so it's all centered up in that area. So let's put it up here and just see how much we're going to have to trim out. That's not bad. Doesn't look like we're going to trim too much. Have to figure out exactly what the best way to trim that out is. If I use that rasp thing, it's going to make an absolute mess in here, but that may be my best option. We'll see. So that's how much I had to take out of it. It's not terrible. I did end up using that rasp thing, and so we'll have some vacuuming and some cleanup to do. I did put a towel down, so I didn't hopefully it didn't ruin my new carpet or anything like that on it. But we've already got the gauge mounted in there and the backing plate in. So let's see how she fits. I think that's pretty good. That looks a whole lot better. Whole lot better. So I'm going to put a rivet up here in the top corner, and then one there and one there, and that'll hold it in there. I'm going to shoot a little paint on it. Was just going to paint it black, but I think I might grab a can of this blue. It's available at parts stores, so I may grab a can of blue and shoot it blue so that it matches. I don't know. Let me think on that a minute. All right, here's the finished product. So I decided not to rivet it in like I was telling you about in the last clip, because after I got that plate painted and got the gauge installed in it and everything, I put it in there, and it's got enough tension that it's holding itself in place. It's not moving around any, and it looks good like it is, and it's easy to pull out if I ever need to do anything to the gauge or do anything to the cigarette lighter plug or anything. So that's it. I decided to paint it black just because I had some handy and I could go ahead and knock it out. But I like it. I think it looks cool like that. Close it up. You don't really see it. I mean, obviously you still see the glow from it, but looks good. So I did end up having to do something different with that glow shift stubby sender. I never could get a temperature reading with that sender and this gauge. I had a good ground. Tried several different ground locations. I know I had a good ground. I tested the gauge. I just that green wire that I ran, I grounded it to the frame, and the gauge shot all the way up, so I know the gauge was working. But that gauge actually came with its own sending unit. So I took the glow shift sender out, put that sender in, and just got back from the drive, and it came up to temperature just like it's supposed to. It hovered around 125 to 135. It's cool and rainy today, so it stayed pretty cool. That transmission cooler that I put in did a really good job. So I've been fooling with this thing for a couple weeks now. But finally got it done, finally got it working right, and got it where we can put this video out. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment, and tell your friends about it. Talk to you later.